Hello, I've got some really exciting things to show you today. We're going to be talking about propagation, growing plants from cuttings. And to help me do that, I've got three beaut friends. I've got Christopher, I've got Megan, and I've got Anna. And we're going to have a lot of fun, aren't we?
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of fun to show. And it's so easy, this. It's not hard to do. It's just a lot of fun. All you need is some sand, and that's all we've got here in this mixture, sand and peat moss. You know what peat moss is?
No.
It's a soil that helps sort of hold moisture in. So when you put cuttings in, it doesn't dry out as quick. If you only put sand, it tends to dry out a little bit quicker. So we put 3 of these full of sand and 1 full of peat moss, and you've got your cutting mixture. Or you can go and buy it already made up, just like that, and it's called propagation mixture. And this is what we use for propagating plants. The interesting part about this too, children, is that if you use that, it doesn't matter. Once you've got your cuttings with roots on, you take them out and you put them into soil, you can use that again and again and again by just running hot water through it to sterilise it, so you never run out. All right, now, what I want to show you here, this is a yogurt container or a plastic container, and they make beautiful pot plants. All we have to do is cut holes in the sides and the bottom. I often see teachers making holes in the bottom like that. Sausages, aren't they?
Because if you cut holes in the top.
Well, what happens if you cut them just in the bottom and then put them on the ground, it blocks the holes up straight away. You must be able to get the... What comes out of there?
Water,
right. OK, well, look, we've done some of these. Why don't you, each of you... Oh, just before we do that, I want to show you this too. This is another little box that you could put cuttings in. By just filling each one of those up with sand and peat moss, you could put 1 cutting to each one of those.
So
10
can
cuttings.
You have all different kinds of cuttings?
You could have, in this particular case, different types of cuttings in those. In these, it's best not to have different types.
Why
because
not?
You've got them all in that one mixture. And if you had 1 cutting here that formed roots, in a fortnight's time, this one would take 3 weeks and this might take a month. When you were taking this one out to pot it up, you would disturb all these others. Right? OK, look, you fill those up. While you're filling those up, I'll get some plants in a minute. Just fill them up. Make them nice and firm. They must be firm. Because if you don't make them firm, you get air pockets in them. And plants will not form roots in air pockets. So you make them...
Is that all right?
No, firmer than that, sweetie. Quite firm. Fill it right up like an ice cream and whack it as hard as Mum whacks your bottom when you're naughty. That usually works pretty well. Sometimes you get it too hard. Depends on Mum. That's perfect.
Okay.
Now, you'll notice here that you've each got one of these, which is a pencil or a piece of wood. It's called a dibber stick. And the idea of that is to make holes in here. Now, we've got all that ready, and that's the most important thing. Get your cutting pot ready first. Don't make your cuttings first. Now, we'll bring a few plants over. We'll talk about this one first.
What's it called?
That one's called a coleus.
Cold.
Now, watch what I'm going to do. This usually frightens some people, so watch carefully. We take the top off there. We'll take this top off here too, I think. Now,
Do they have to be big stems?
no, not necessarily, no. Actually, little cuttings are OK, and I haven't hurt this plant one little bit, Christopher. You were worried about this before, weren't you?
Yep.
And I haven't hurt it one little bit. All that'll happen now, that'll bush out into a nice bushy plant. But what we can do now is we can take cuttings from here. We cut just below where the leaf joins onto the main, or the plant joins onto the main stem, and there's a cutting. Now, all you've got to do then... Can I put one in yours, please?
Yep.
See, I had to ask you this if you said, no, I couldn't do it. Because this is yours now, and you just firm it down like that. All right, now, I'll tell you what we could do. Perhaps might be a bad idea if I make the cuttings on this one and you pop them in. Now, we might do these just with you. You can put these ones in your own little pot, all right? There's yours. That's one. We can even take cuttings like this if we want to. Have a look at this one. This is what we call a double cutting, a double stem cutting. Look at that. That will grow. That one. Or we can do the same thing with this piece.
How come you have to cut off these bits?
Well, because they are what we call, that's a good question actually, internodal. If you leave that, if I left a piece like that on, instead of cutting it off here near the join, that tends to rot. And when something starts to rot, it doesn't necessarily stop there. It'll keep rotting and it just rots the whole plant out. So we always cut just below where the leaves join on, which is again called a node. Another one for you. You've got two more there to pop in. Beautiful. And this is what I call having fun.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're living things. They're alive.
Why doesn't it hurt the plants when you cut it?
Wholly and solely because, I suppose it's like any other thing. We're producing it. Most likely the plant might be shocked just that little bit, but it doesn't hurt the plant because all we've done is cleaned it up, stopped it being too long, making too long cuttings. Yeah. And we can just keep cutting like that right through. So you can see from one little... Have a look at your pot now. That looks magnificent.
Yeah, it does.
Now you can see how you can do that. All right, we'll leave that one. You can put a couple more in there if you like, Adam, but we'll just try another one. This is another one. This is another coleus. Oh, gosh, I better show you. This is called coleus again. And this is interesting. See this? That's essential. Tell teachers and mums and dads to squirt their plants with water twice a week if they're growing them inside. Because it creates humidity and moisture around the plant. And no plant likes to be grown in dry atmosphere, especially when you're growing indoor plants. We could do the same thing with this. Take the top off like that. And all that happens now is that bushes up into a nice bushy plant.
How long would it take for those to grow?
I'd say you should have roots on these in about 3 weeks. So we can put the tip cutting in like that. One little thing that I'd like to suggest too to tell people, never cut the leaves on cuttings like that.
Why not?
Because if you do that, it tends to have to heal that up first before it can put roots down here.
So it takes
longer. So it's best not to do that. It's even best to take those leaves off if you did that. All right? And then you can put those in as cuttings. Would you like to pop a couple of those in?
Yeah.
And it's so easy, and I hope that we can get something for Christopher to do. I get a lot of fun doing this. And, of course, the big thing about it is you can do some really marvellous things with your plants. You can give them away to your friends. You can share them with mum and dad.
Can you mix some seeds with other seeds and would it...
A bit hard to get the right... if you mix seeds with other seeds and you put them all in together, then you're not too sure. Some might grow quicker than others, so it's better... It's the same thing with cuttings. It's better to put the same cutting in the one pot. All right, we've done those ones, and I want to show you this one, Christopher. This one here is called a peperoma, and this one grows from just leaf cuttings. Have a look at this. We can just cut little leaves off like that, and all you need to put those in the sand and peat moss and they grow. Would you like to pop those in, Christopher? Just come up this little way and I can go around this side with Christopher, if you like. It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
How can I put this in?
Just the same way as you were doing the others, nice and firm. You just practice, because one of the great things about it is if they fall out, you can do them again. So you don't have to get worried about it. You never get worried about doing things like this. It's an exciting part of growing plants, because when they have roots on, they're yours, as I said. You can pot them up, give them away, and then run some hot water through your sand and peat moss and start all over again with another lot of cuttings.
When they get too big, do you have to plant them out in the garden?
No, these are what we call potted plants, so we keep them in pots. They will grow in gardens, say, in the climates up around the tropics, subtropical areas, but not really down here.
Well, do you have to put them into a bigger pot plant then?
Yes, you'd start to repot them. Now, the only other thing that I want to mention too here is watering's fairly important. So you would need to water these, and each one, when you water it, must have the water coming out. Right, now we've done all that. We'll pretend we've watered them. Bring over your pots over here, because I want to show you this. This is what I call my propagating box. And all we have to do, all we do now is put our cuttings, pop your cuttings in there. That's the way. And all we do now, we've watered them, we roll this back over the top, and don't put that in the clear sun. Keep it where it's shaded in your room.
Why does it have to be kept in a shaded spot?
Because the sun would burn the cuttings and they don't have any roots on, so they've got to get roots on first. It's just like a brand new baby. We've put them into a humidity crib. Okay? We look forward to seeing you next time.